Hello, this is Julie, the Director of Communications from the Addison Center for the Arts. And I'm here with Dorothy Bury Shaw. And everybody has been really loving your show, Dorothy. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. And we've been getting a lot of questions. There's one particular question that is the most popular about your work here.
Okay.
How long, Dorothy, does it take to make a magnificent artwork like this?
I can't begin to tell you how many times I hear this question, but I look into the face of the person asking it, and they're so sincere, and it kind of boggles their minds, and it's the hardest question to answer, because I look at a piece and I equate it almost like with having a child, and there's a whole gestation period to that, and a concept arrives and it has to be mulled over, and it has to speak to me and it has to inform me, and then everything I see as I go through my day, it's kind of bounced off the ideas of the seed that was planted, and sometimes it can be days, weeks, months, years before I feel ready to actually start the piece, and then it can take days, weeks, months for it to actually get completed once I do start. The work itself is very detailed and tedious, but also rich for me. It's almost like a meditation or going into a trance, because there's a lot of line work and experimentation on the side with colors and combos, and then when I started collage and I make all these different elements, I have them all laid out and I rearrange and I play. It's like play, it's like therapy. It's hard to describe, but also what comes into it is all the training that I've had throughout my life. And my 4 years at the Chicago Academy of Fine Art, we did life drawing every single day for 4 hours. And I just love the figure, and every angle, every shape, every age, every gender, everything about it. I love the figure. And so I'll sketch, I'll make 10, 15, 20 little sketches until I find the right energy in a certain pose or gesture. It starts to kind of come and shape up. The other thing that has influenced me is I've always loved art, and I know I'm long-winded with this answer, but there's no short way to answer this question. All the artists that I love, they all bring something that has inspired me, and that is a contributor. So sometimes if you ask how long a piece took, I'm not lying if I tell you it took a lifetime.
Great answer.
Actual hours at the table, a piece like this, 160 to 80 hours maybe. But there's pieces I made that were never used in it, that were, so it's hard to answer.
I'm hearing a lot from the different artists that have come through,
Uh-huh.
and they have a technical question for you.
Okay.
You're using collage now.
Correct.
You're using, would you tell us what kind of adhesive you are using? Because they're all amazed at the perfection. It doesn't even look like they're glued down. It's so perfect. And then after that, if you can go into what kind of materials you're using for your collages.
Okay. So, I started out, I never planned on going into collage, and I ended up getting involved in this collaborative piece in which I did sewing, not even collage, but a lot of the members were in the Collage Society, and the Midwest Collage Society, and they had an opportunity to exhibit these pieces, but I was not a member. So they chipped in, one in particular spearheaded it and bought me a membership to the Midwest Collage Society. And then I saw a tutorial by Laura Line-Svensner, and she described her method, and she uses a golden gloss medium gel, and it's kind of a semi-soft, it's not stiff, but it's not liquidy and drippy either. And I thought, okay, the least I could do is create a collage for the Midwest Collage Society. And what Laura does is, after she's all done, she actually puts the glue and lets it dry first and then lays it out, and then she irons it with an iron and a parchment paper and fuses it. So I don't do the pre-glue, I glue as I go, but I do iron it all at the end, which flattens and might give it some of that, where they can't see the edges. But the other thing I started doing myself is I color the edges a lot of the time. I'll either take my colored pencil and go around the whole edge, or I'll go with the marker and kind of trace it on a paper so you can't really see the edge. It's that kind of detail that sucks
The level of
so
craft.
much time.
Wow. It's wonderful.
So I am still using golden gel medium. I switched to matte, which Laura said not to do because it doesn't work, but I didn't like it glossy.
Mm-hmm.
And that did work, but it dulled the clarity and sharpness of the image.
Mm-hmm.
So now I use a semi-gloss.
Dorothy, the imagery here is so beautiful. Where does the themes and the subjects of these very spiritual and graceful paintings come from?
There again, from many sources come these images. I'm attracted to the mystics and all things mystical. I think mysticism is a fuller, deeper reality than this one right here. And that's, I feel like I have one foot in this world and another foot in that realm, and that's the better place to be. But they come from, I don't reference a photo for any of these things. These are all stylized from my mind. A lot of nature. I put a lot of nature, a lot of birds. I love birds, I love trees. Birds and their wings and their flight. And other things that inspire me are stories in literature and in sacred texts and in poetry. I love poetry all my life. I had a book, Robert Louis Stevenson's Garden of Verses, and I just read that book cover to cover over and over and over, and I fell in love with where the poetry took me inside and the images that formed in my head. When you're reading poetry, because we have the gift of sight, we create visuals, and those visuals are so beautiful in my head. And when I read the Persian mystics, Rumi, Hafez, my heart just opens wide, and it's like a big paradise, a field of nothing but beauty and harmony and unity and grace and spirit and connectedness. So it's quite a natural pairing for me for poetry to happen as I'm creating the art. As I spend so much time doing it, I'm thinking about it, and a phrase will come, a word will come. Sometimes that wasn't part of my original intention. I'm like, okay, and I scribble it, I scrawl. Because I always, test my markers, and, they dry up, and I have to try and test another one, and how thick is it? And in those testing sheets are the scribbles of words and phrases that I eventually gather and kind of play almost collage-like, and a poem starts to emerge, and I just kind of bring it all together at the end. And it's another question people ask me is, do you write the poem first or do you write it afterward? Well, there again, it can happen either or, but usually it's during, and I love it that way.
Thank you for being so open and honest about this. I think it's wonderful that even though you live in two worlds, you've taken your visions from the better world and brought it into this world for all of us to appreciate.
Oh, thank
what
you.
a wonderful piece of art to have in your space, this vision of loveliness and deep personal vision. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I will say that when it's all together, there's a vibe, there's something. And when I do the art fairs, and we have a 10 by 10 foot tent, and it's just, the art is just all in there. And some people come in and they're like, oh. And some people, people have cried. People have just stayed. Is it okay if I just stay for a while? And I'll say, yeah, sure, take your time. I had one man who came show to show and would sit in front of one piece for a while. He ended up buying that piece. But, and another woman this summer, she stood in front of this one, and she just, tears on her face, and, she's, I just want to see it. And she came to visit it one more time before she left the art show. And it leaves me touched. It makes me feel the work needs to be, and it has a reason for being. And so I'm really grateful I get to share it,
Well, we are super privileged to have the opportunity to show this giant collection of your fantastic work.
Thank you.
Again, thanks a lot. Dorothy Bury Shaw, she is here until November 5th. Thanks.